Everyone tells you Asia is the ultimate retirement paradise. But is it still true in 2026? We're seeing several things that make us say stay out, unless it's just for a vacation. One of our viewers said this just a few days ago when he visited Thailand. I visited Thailand thinking of retirement there, but what a pain. It's dirty, broken down pollution. It's not dreamy at all. Uh-oh. Welcome back to our Retire Early lifestyle. Today we're going to give you a dose of reality that those salesy travel channels seem to avoid. But isn't that what we always do? Give you the reality show? Reality number 1, the Expat Traffic Jam. Bangkok, Chiang Mai, and Manila, they aren't just popular, they're saturated. These cities and others are saturated with tourists and expats now, and you know what that means, right? More expats mean higher rents and gringo pricing in local markets. Our viewers have expressed how frustrating it is when being overcharged all the time for rents and foods. I've been in the Philippines, Thailand, and Cambodia, and honestly, it's trash, poor quality, and prices of vegetables and fruit more expensive in many places. Another viewer expressed concern about the food in the Philippines, especially the produce. They say it looks and tastes bad, and it's expensive. I've been in the Philippines 6+ years. Yes, ultra-processed garbage foods. I told my wife, no more grapes from the market. They taste like bug spray even after washing. Eat healthier here? BS. Well, we hate to break it to you, but most of Southeast Asia, most of Latin America, aside from just a few countries in Southern Europe, they all use more pesticides per hectare of crops than the USA. Most of these countries use up to 5 times more chemicals than the USA on the food crops. That's why the food tastes like bug spray, because it is bug spray. We're going on almost 6 years now living in the Philippines, and I can put up with the negatives, the absolutely bad utility service and mostly yucky food. But my oldest son wants to move back to the USA as soon as he turns 18. This is not the Asia of times past when there were very few foreigners and they were glad to let you know they walked away from the hustle and bustle of their life and moved to Thailand on $500 a month. Remember? And that was the total. That was the cost of living, $500 a month. Things have changed. And isn't that what is to be expected nowadays? The vibes in places like Bangkok and Chiang Mai have shifted from one of curiosity about the foreigner to let's see how much we can get from the Farangs. It's the same in Vietnam and the Philippines. This happens because of the swaths of foreigners that are going to these Asian countries right now. The locals feel resentful of all the rich Americans coming to their country living off the fat of the land, and rising prices is a consequence of that. So the expat vicious cycle we're always talking about on this channel is alive and well. When the city becomes overly crowded with Westerners, the local culture changes, meaning the locals get greedy and the welcome mat can get pulled out right from under you. When you start seeing rents being promoted as cheap, that are the same or more than what a local earns in an entire month, watch out. You're walking into a trap. The vicious cycle looks something like this. This is what happens. So moving through the expat cycle, we're going to talk about how Southeast Asia is slowly filtering out the regular expat to woo in the wealthier foreigner now. This is how the greed builds up in these countries, and even in your own country. The USA is seeing many pockets like this right now. Reality number 2, the wealth filter. They only want your money. For years, the pitch for Thailand, Vietnam, and the Philippines was that you could live like royalty on a social security check. But the governments in these countries have caught on. It used to be you just needed to show a few $100s a month. It was a backpacker's paradise. That's all gone now. Now it costs thousands of dollars. They aren't looking for the budget retiree anymore. They've realized they don't want people who are moving there because they're priced out of the West. They want the people who are already wealthy. They want to get their fingers into your cookie jar. They want the taxes. Does that surprise you? I mean, look at the new visa requirements. We're seeing golden visas and long-term residency permits that require massive bank balances or high monthly incomes that many average retirees simply don't have, let alone the locals. In some spot, it feels like they're putting up a members-only sign. What's happening to Asia? Well, I'll tell you, if you aren't bringing a big fat wallet, you're becoming less of a guest and more of a burden in their eyes. They're raising the prices of entry. Can't pay to play, you might find your paradise has a very short expiration date. You have to ask yourself, do you really want to move halfway across the world to a place that only values you for the size of your portfolio? The big question is, why were people even looking at Asia in the first place? Because it was cheap. But now look at it. This is the foreigner vicious cycle in motion, folks, and you're a part of it. Countries like Thailand, Vietnam, and Philippines are raising the bar. They're moving away from the budget retiree and targeting high net worth individuals. They think if they increase the visa prices gradually, no one will notice. But what this does is it brings in people with more and more money. Do you see how that works? It's expat inflation at work, and you're the sitting duck. If you're broke in the USA, moving to Asia won't change your situation that much. If you're living on a smaller fixed social security income, the visa requirements are making it harder to stay long term. They want your money. It's like you go to a party and the host suddenly starts charging for the free snacks. Now let's talk about reality number 3. Country promoters don't like talking about crime, and when they do, they minimize the crime to the max. And we don't like that. Reality number 3, the dark side, crime, scams, and murders. We hear over and over again that Asia is safer than any big U.S. city, and on the surface, for a 2-week vacation, that might feel true. But living there as an expat is a completely different game. When you stay long term, you aren't a tourist anymore. You're a target. Just real quick off the top of my head, I am comparing Dallas, Texas to Manila, Philippines. And according to people's perception of safety, they feel much safer in big Dallas, Texas than Manila, Philippines. We're seeing a disturbing trend of targeted crimes against expats. It's not just petty pickpocketing either. We're talking about sophisticated property scams where people lose their entire life savings because they didn't understand the local land laws. And even worse, there have been recent headlines about murders and violent setups that never make it into the glossy travel brochures. Prominent American marine biologist shot dead, companion injured in the Philippines. Now this was a home invasion robbery, and some folks are saying the murder of this marine biologist was a setup by his wife. That makes this crime even worse. Obviously, he was a prominent scientist and he had money, okay? So the question is, how does this sit with all of you men? I mean, you say in the comments the women are better in Asia, but which women are better? Can you tell us in a couple of sentences which Asian women you think are better? How can you tell who is better or not? How will you know if she's just after your money? They all go for the man with the money. You do know that, right? We're not saying they are all scammers, but this American marine biologist had been with this Filipino woman for a while. If it's true the wife was involved, then the crime is horrific. The reports say the police are looking at the Filipino wife as a person of interest. So she may have a motive, maybe a life insurance policy or... The reality is, places like Vietnam, Thailand, or the Philippines, if something goes wrong, the system isn't always on your side. There's a language barrier, a legal barrier, and sometimes a foreigner price for justice. When you're in a country where you have no real rights as a non-citizen, it makes you more vulnerable to a crappy system. You all know what we're talking about, right? Many crimes against expats go unreported. That would ruin their image of a safe country. Unfortunately, being afraid of the local police or of retaliation in these countries keeps the crime hidden from the world. Especially some of the crime scams against the expat. Many of them never get reported, and that's scary. We know you love the adventure of Asia, and it's still cheaper than the USA, but you have to keep your eyes wide open. Don't let a beautiful sunset blind you to the fact that paradise can have a very dark side if you aren't careful. But it's more than just being careful. It's knowing what to be careful of and being aware of the recent scams from all angles, whether it's property scams, visa scams, romance scams, or just street crimes that target Westerners. The bottom line is, it's not just about you feeling safe, it's about how you are the target for crime and scams when you go to these countries. When you're on vacation, you might just stick around for a week or a month and not really interact with the local folks that much. You're staying in a tourist hotel or an Airbnb where they speak English, or you're going to the beach and eating out in the expat cafes and restaurants. You're visiting the temples and it seems really safe because you're on vacation. But living somewhere permanently is a totally different vibe. Now you're interacting with immigration folks, intermediaries, real estate agents, landlords, and bankers, and street vendors, and you name it, because you're moving there and you need to buy things. You need to buy products and services from the local citizens. This is where things begin to get dodgy, as the Brits would say. This is precisely why we highly recommend vacations instead of relocating somewhere on a permanent basis. Asia would be amazing for 2 weeks or 2 months, but not a forever deal. That's just the way we see it. We want to know what our viewers think. Are you living in Asia right now? Do these changes make a difference to you? Are you seeing these changes too? Or maybe you noticed the changes and already came home. Tell us the truth in the comments below. I mean, you can tell us the fairy tale soup if you want, but our viewers are really onto that kind of narrative, so it would be better to be as honest as you possibly can. Thanks for watching today. Take care and bye-bye.